So in this Falcon 4 BMS tutorial, I'm going to walk you through how to use the FCR, or Fire Control Radar. The FCR is used to lock up targets both in the air and on the ground. For purposes of this tutorial, I'm just going to go over the using it to lock up air targets. So where is the FCR? By default, it's going to be on your left multifunction display, or MFD, which is on the left side of your cockpit. So we're talking about this guy right here. And the FCR has many features. We're not going to go over everything, we're just going to go over the basics. So the main things that you're going to be looking at is you have at the top left of the FCR where it says 40, that's the default range. That is telling you how far the radar is scanning, okay? The closer the radar beam is, the lower the altitude you can scan. The farther away something is, the easier it is to detect. And what you should do is you should imagine the radar as a sort of searchlight or a beam coming out, and it's really thin the closer you are to the aircraft, and it spreads out, okay? So you use these buttons here to increase or decrease the radar range. Under that are some buttons that will customize how wide the radar beam is. Don't worry about that. The bottom left right here, these 6 digits in white numbers, that is the bullseye of the target at the radar cursor. Below that is your current bullseye. Now in the center here we see this blue artificial horizon, and then we also have these 2 vertical white lines. That's your radar selector, or radar cursor, or radar designator, whatever you want to call it. That's what you slew around using your arrow keys to lock up targets. Now, there's 2 sets of numbers to the right side of the radar cursor. There is, on the top in white, is the maximum altitude that you can scan at, and at the bottom in red is the minimum altitude that you can scan at. And you can increase and decrease the range by pressing F5 and F7 respectively, which is to raise or to decrease your antenna tilt. So the antenna tilt controls the altitude in which you can scan. It does not control the range. The range, as I went over before, is by the top left number here. That's the range. Now on the right side of the FCR, these are data link controls. Okay. Now each number corresponds to the person in to the player in your flight, or the aircraft in your flight. So 1 would be the flight lead, 2 would be his wingman, 3 would be the Element 2 leader, and 4 would be his wingman. And what the coolest thing about it is that you can actually, if you lock something up on the FCR, you can instantly send the position of that contact to anyone in your flight by clicking on these buttons. So if you locked up a bandit, it's inbound or whatever, you could lock it up and then press, let's say you're the flight lead and you wanted your wingman to see it for whatever reason, you click 2. It will say data on his screen, and he'll instantly see it on his FCR. Now, what's another important feature of this screen is these top buttons here. Most of them are irrelevant. You don't really need to worry about it. The most important one is where it says RWS, okay? That is telling you the radar mode. There's multiple modes, okay? RWS stands for range while scan, and it has the fastest update rate, and it has the largest cone area. But it does not provide any situational information, unlike another mode called TWS, or track while scan. So if you were to click on these buttons, which I can't do right now because I have the game paused, it would switch between various radar modes. The only ones that we're going to cover right now is RWS and TWS, because they're the most used radar modes and they're something you're going to use constantly. RWS is if you want to get a target, if you want to acquire a target quickly, you don't have time for TWS. TWS, in my opinion, is the best mode for general usage. because unlike RWS, where radar contacts will just show up as white squares, on TWS, up to 10 targets will be automatically soft locked by your radar, and what that does, it will tell you their attitude or bearing, and it will tell you their attitude and altitude. Okay? And that's really good for situational awareness, because just by glancing at it, you can tell if an enemy aircraft is turned in on you, is flying away, stuff like that. You know, and the altitude is always really important, because if they're really low, you know that you're about to lose them, perhaps. And this is all things that you wouldn't get on RWS unless you soft locked various contacts. That's the basics of the anatomy of the FCR. Now we're going to go over. Now we're just going to go over using it in practice. So I'm going to unpause the game. So I have some large sort of lumbering air contacts over here. They're bombers. Yeah, they're over here. Okay, now what we've done here is we've locked up a bomber that is off bore side right now. I'm going to go ahead and turn on my HMCS for a moment so I can show you where it is. It's right there. Oh, do I not have I might not have HMCS in this model. Okay, I don't have HMCS, but it's right there, if you can see it. It's a bomber or some sort of, yeah, it's a Tu-87 Bear, it looks like. Now I locked that up, and the reason why I did that is I want to show you some symbology here on the FCR. Now, what you're seeing is a number of things, okay? These blue vertical lines show you what your radar is currently scanning. So when I pressed TMS up to lock up the target, the radar beam shortened so it can acquire the target and you can get some more information. Now, see these white squares? Those are radar contacts. We don't know what altitude they're at. We don't know anything because we're in RWS. Now, if you slew your radar onto them and press TMS up, you'll lock onto them. Okay? Now, when you lock onto the target, it turns from these white squares into this yellow triangle. And the yellow triangle has a line coming out of it on one side of the triangle, on one edge of the triangle. That is showing you where the nose of the aircraft is. So right now, you can see this is like a triangle facing, down left, which means it's flying sort of towards me, but also to a flank. Okay? And the number to the right, or the number under it, 10, that's the altitude of the target. The number to the right of that, where it says 05 in blue, that's the minimum altitude. So let's say this target starts diving. I won't be able to, if he dives below 5,000, I'm going to start losing him. And at that point, this would flash red, and there'd be X's across it. So that's just for your own situational awareness. This circle here and all this stuff, this is for the AMRAAM, which I'm going to go over in a moment. We're going to get back to that in a moment. Let's go over the numbers at the top. These are really important. So this top right number here where it says plus 51K, that is the closure rate. And what a closure rate is, it's how fast you're approaching or moving away from the target. So if it's positive, then you're moving towards the target. If it's negative, you're moving away from the target. Now, it's in knots. So right now I'm closing on this target at 512 knots. Okay? The number to the left of that is the target's airspeed in knots. So it's going at 379 knots. The number all the way to the left, where it says 270, that is the heading of the aircraft in degrees magnetic. So this, it's pretty obvious to see. This is a really good example, actually. Since he's turned, down left, he's on exact 270 bearing. Now, if I were to get closer to this guy, if I were to get closer to this guy, I might know what sort of aircraft he is, because if you hard lock or TMS up twice a air contact, this space here might be filled in with some information, and that's because the radar can interrogate contacts, which means it can basically scan them and determine what they are. It's not really reliable, but it can save your ass sometimes, because if you don't have time to declare a target with AWACS to see if it's hostile, and you don't really have time to visually look at it, you can lock it up and then it might tell you what it is. So if you see these, air contacts that are flying towards you going like with 900 knots of closure distance, they're probably hostile, but you need to make sure before you fire. So it might say like MiG-29 might pop up in that space, and then you know it's hostile. You don't even need to declare it. Now let's go to the HUD for a moment. So when you lock something up on the radar, the range to the target is going to be right here, it's F0101.1, which means it's 10.1 nautical miles away. We're going to go over the other symbology on the HUD in regards to the FCR once we go over the AMRAAM, which we're about to do. So let's unpause the sim and let's switch it into TWS mode and quickly go over that. So I'm going to come down here, I'm going to click where it says RWS. Oh, I do have a HMCS, so it just paused, so it didn't update. I forgot about that. Okay, now we're in TWS mode. Okay. What you're going to find now in TWS mode is that all these targets, they appear as if they're locked up, because they are being locked up by my radar. They're all being soft locked. They're all being soft locked, up to 10 radar contacts, and I can see the relative bearing of all of them, and I can see their altitude. This is extremely, extremely useful information. So you're going to want to keep in TWS mode. Oh, one disadvantage of TWS mode is that not only does it refresh slower, but it also has a thinner radar beam, and because of that, the altitudes that you can scan would be significantly lower than RWS. See, right now we can scan between 14,000 and 5,000 on this contact. Now, if I switch it, I'm going to switch it to RWS, and you're going to see how it's going to change. $12,000 and 5,000 compared to 12,000 and 7,000 for the RWS. So now let's go over the AMRAAMs. Okay, so I'm going to switch back into navigation mode. This way we can switch to AMRAAMs properly. So what's an AMRAAM? Okay, an AMRAAM is an AIM-120. It's an air-to-air missile that has a range of about 15 miles. It's radar guided. Okay. You have to use your FCR in order to use the AMRAAM. It's not infrared like the AIM-9, Maverick, or correction, Sidewinder. It doesn't go off of a tone or anything like that. It needs to be radar guided. So, in order to select the AMRAAM, you want to cycle into air-to-air master mode, which is this button on the FCR, where it says AA. You want to cycle into air-to-air master mode. And then once you're in air-to-air master mode, you can switch between weapons by either your SMS page or by clicking on AA again. And what you'll find is that at the bottom left of your HUD, where it shows the current mode that you're in, right now I'm in navigation mode, that will switch to MRM, where it says nav, that will switch to MRM or SRM. MRM are AMRAAMs, and SRMs are Sidewinders. Okay, so let's go ahead and switch into air-to-air master mode. And we see immediately there's some change in symbology here. We have, it says 2 MRM, and there's also a circle which basically shows the acquisition area of the AMRAAM. Now watch what happens when we lock something up. So what we're going to do to lock something up is we're going to find it on our radar and then press TMS up. Okay? So I'm going to unpause it and lock this guy up. Okay, I press TMS up once, okay? That's considered to be a soft lock. Now at this point, you're going to get all the information here at the top, the closure rate, the airspeed, the bearing, the airplane type. You're also going to get a new thing here on the right side, okay? That is this square bracket thing, that's called an indexer. And this is telling you when you have it's telling you when you have a firing solution, okay? So we're just going to go over this really quickly. Now, it's also on the right side of your HUD, as you can see here. This thing right here, this is the indexer. It's the exact same thing that's on the FCR. It's just in both spots. This way you don't have to look down when you're in combat. Now, there's a bunch of symbols here, okay? On the indexer. Now, if you take anything away from this video at all, I'm going to start going into some terminology that might confuse people, but if you're going to take anything away from this video, just know that when you see this greater than symbol right here, that's called a caret, okay? When the caret is below this circle, you have a pretty good shot. And if the caret's inside the indexer, then it's a really, really good shot, okay? So if you take anything away from this, just take that away. Now I'm going to go into specifically the components of the indexer, okay? This triangle up here is part of the indexer. It might be hard to see in the video. This triangle, that is the maximum aerodynamic range of the AMRAAM for target acquisition. So if this target that I'm firing at was coming at me in a straight line and did not make any attempts to evade whatsoever, I could kill him at that point, okay? Now, that never happens, but let's say there was like a slow-moving cargo aircraft you wanted to kill. He's moving on a bearing, he's not taking any evasive action whatsoever. You might want to take a shot at that point, and that would be considered to be a Fox 3 long shot, okay? Now, that's not ideal, though, and I wouldn't recommend that, especially if you're firing on a combat aircraft that's going to actually try to evade you. Now, the next component of the FCR, of the indexer, is this circle, okay? And that circle is the optimum range. That's like the maximum optimum range that you can fire at, okay? It's not the best shot, but it's, if you want to take a shot pretty decently, excuse me, if you want to take a pretty decent shot, it will account for the target jinking a little bit or trying to turn a little bit. It's not 100% chance of killing it, but if the caret is on that circle or below it, then the target can make some evasive maneuvers and you'll probably still kill it. Now, the next feature of the indexer is the top of the indexer here, this horizontal white line, okay? This horizontal white line. That is the range probability of intercept. Sorry, I'm looking down at my notes here. That is the range probability of intercept. If the caret is at that bracket or below, then you have a very high chance of killing the target, even if it tries to evade. Okay? That's like an ideal shot. It's called a Fox 3 medium. Okay? Now, this rectangle that's inside the indexer, that is called, that's the range for turn and run. Okay? So, above that point, above this bracket, if the target were to do a split S and burn away from you, and it was really fast and really maneuverable, there's a high chance that it would defeat your missile. Okay? Like if you were to fire on another F-16 that was really maneuverable, could do a split S, get up to like 700 knots and get away from you, the chance of killing it above that line would be very difficult. Now, if you fire inside this indexer, inside this bracket, okay, range, turn, and run, then you're almost guaranteed to kill the target. There's almost no way it can escape unless it's like a dud missile or it does something insane or it hits into a mountain or something. Now, the very bottom of the indexer is the minimum engagement range. If the carrot goes below this bracket, then if you were to fire your AMRAAM, it would almost always miss. So we don't want to do that. And at that point, you'd either switch to Sidewinders, which is a short-range heat-seeking missile, or you'd switch to guns, depending on how close they are and what their closure rate is and stuff like that. So, again, just to go over this very briefly, if the carrot is inside anywhere below the circle or on the circle, it's a good shot. So just, if you're going to take anything away from it, just take that away, okay? Now, what is the procedure for engaging the target? Okay, so what you're going to do is you're going to turn into the target until this big circle here is big, okay? This circle will expand when you have a really good shot. If it's blinking and it's big, then you have a really good shot. You always want to fire from bore sight if possible. And what that means is the bore sight is like the HUD, okay? It's the aircraft's frontal position. If the target is on your bore sight, your chances of killing are much higher. So we see here at the top of the HUD this little cross with a line coming out of it. It says 20 next to it. That's the gun cross, okay? That's telling me where my guns are pointing, but that's not really the important thing for this exercise. The important thing is that it tells me the bearing to the current target I have locked up. So the line's going to the left and it says 20, which means the target is 20 degrees magnetic off my nose. He's either this guy right here. He's probably this guy, but if he's not, he might be this guy. Okay. So what I want to do before I fire is I want to turn into the target, and I want to check my indexer again, make sure it's good, and then I want to hold down pickle. Now this is really important. You have to hold down pickle. If you just press it, nothing will happen. You have to give it consent. You need to hold it down for about a second. Okay. Now, I think I went over everything with the indexer. Oh, there's a few more things I want to go over. So I'm not going to go over lofting. Okay, one really important feature is the number next to the carrot, okay? The number next to the carrot is the closure rate. So if you want to know how fast you're closing on the target, don't look down into your FCR. That's the worst thing you can do because that's going to mess up your situational awareness. Because it's right here. It's at the top right of the FCR, like we went over before. Don't look at your FCR, okay? I want you to look at the HUD. It's right next to the carrot on the HUD, okay? 25. That's the closure rate, which means I'm slightly gaining on the target, not much. Okay, 25 knots of closure. So I think I went over everything. I'm going to turn now and engage this target. I'm going to unpause the game. I'm going to turn left on the bore sight. You're going to see the circle expand, and then I'm going to hold down pickle and I'm going to fire. Now this is going to be a Fox 3 medium. It might be a close when I turn on the bore sight. So here goes. Okay. Now I have visual on the target, okay? This is this square here with the cross in it. That is just indicating to me where the target is, and that's telling me that that's the target that I have locked up. Now at this point, if we look at the indexer, it's right above the whatchamacallit, the range probability of intercept. Now, if I could fire right now and probably kill this thing because it's a bomber, but if this was a really fast maneuvering bandit, I'd probably want to wait a few moments until I got within range, turn and run. But for now, we're just going to pickle off right now.
1, Fox 3 Club 1, hit bull.
Splash. It's going down. We'll give him another one for good luck.
1, Fox 3 Club 1, hit below.
You see the missile flying in, you see it right there? See, that's another thing that I didn't go over, is that AMRAAMs take a lead pursuit. They always try to fly in front of the target or to come down on top of it, so watch. Boom. Okay, that's how to use the AMRAAM. So one thing I forgot to go over with the AMRAAM is pitbull, okay? When a AMRAAM goes pitbull, it no longer needs radar guidance from the guiding aircraft. So at that point, you can unlock the target and select a new target and fire onto that target. But until that point, you have to keep the radar locked onto the target in order to ensure maximum probability of kill. Now, your pilot, your character, will automatically say pitbull. At that point, you can lock onto a new target. And I'm just going to mention this for advanced players. I'm not going to show you how to do it. It's beyond the scope of this video. But it is possible to engage multiple air targets at a time. Multiple launches in the air at the same time and have them guided. Okay. In order to do that, you have to be constantly providing guidance information to the missile, and the best way to do that is in TWS mode. And in TWS mode, if you lock onto a target and you fire, you can then press TMS right and switch to the next target in the group and fire, next one and fire. But at any time, if you break the lock completely, or if you exit TWS mode, all those missiles will become unguided. So I'm just going to mention that for the advanced user. If you want to try to engage multiple targets at a time, go for it, but we're not going to go over that in this video. Now, the next thing that we're going to go over is the AIM-9. The AIM-9 is known as a Sidewinder, and it has many designations. You have the AIM-9 Mike, which is the most common Sidewinder type, and it came out after Vietnam. It's an all-aspect missile that can attack aircraft from any angle. You have the AIM-9 Papa, which is a Vietnam-era missile, and it's only really effective from rear aspects, so you have to be behind the target in order to hit them effectively. Then you have the AIM-9X, and the AIM-9X is the best Sidewinder available. It's brand new. It only was developed a few years ago. And the AIM-9X can actually fire off bore sight, so if you see something to your left, you can hit it like 70 degrees off of bore sight. And it also is extremely accurate, extremely fast, and very hard to defeat. And it's resistant to flares. So the AIM-9X is great. Now, let's talk about the basics of the AIM-9. Okay, the AIM-9 is an infrared or heat-guided missile. It does not use the radar. So you can use the radar to locate and orient yourself towards a target. You can use the radar to point the seeker head of the AIM-9 at a target, but the seeker head is ultimately what is the most important aspect of the AIM-9. The seeker head is a heat-seeking device that detects ambient heat temperature, and it produces a growl. Okay, you'll hear like a buzzing noise or a growl. When that growl is really violent and really heavy, then you have a good shot. And that's how you determine if you have a good shot. Now, there is going to be an indexer just like the AMRAAM, but it's only a relative thing. If you don't have a really good tone, it will not hit the target. And that's a really important point. I mean, you can have the indexer all the way down, Fox 2 close, like a really close shot, like 2-3 miles out. It's still going to miss unless that tone is really hot. Now, there's two ways to ensure that your tone is going to be good, okay? You have cooling the seeker head and uncaging, okay? When you cool the seeker head, you actually release a chemical that cools it a bit, and it makes it way more sensitive. And you want to do that when you're attacking the target, but you're not on top of it yet. That's when you want to cool the seeker head, okay? So right now in this example, there's a bunch of bombers that are within visual range. At this point, I would cool the seeker head, and I'd acquire them and shoot them down. The second thing is uncaging, okay? The seeker head by default is caged, okay? It's restricted. When you uncage the seeker head, it becomes very, very sensitive. So in combination, if you cool the seeker head and you uncage it, it becomes very sensitive and you'll get really good tones. Now, you don't have to uncage it, okay? It will fire and it will track if it's caged and if it's warm, if it's not cooled. But it will be much less effective. So the key point here is you want to try to uncage it, you want to cool it if you have that option. If you don't have that option, if it's an emergency or whatever, you can shoot it off. And unlike the AMRAAM, you don't have to hold down the pickle button, okay? You just fire it and then that's it. So I'm going to unpause this. I'm just going to switch to air-to-air mode real quick. Okay, so now I'm in air-to-air mode, air-to-air master mode. And this is the SMS page. Now, this is the key feature that I'm going to go over for the AIM-9, where it says cool, okay? If you click that button, it's going to cool the warhead. Alright, sorry, I already cooled it, so this is sort of cheating. So right now it's warm, so you hear how the tone is like, you know, it's grumble, but it's not that violent. Now if I cool it, which I'm going to do now, you hear how it became a lot more aggressive. Now, let's go over the what you're going to find when you select air-to-air master mode. You select the sidewinder. You're going to have this circle with a diamond in it. Okay, this is representing the seeker head of the AIM-9, and if that diamond goes over an engine or a really hot object, it's going to growl violently. And if it becomes really loud, then you have an ideal shot. So what we're going to do now is we're going to lock up one of these bombers, which I've lost sight on. They're over there. I'm going to lock up these bombers on the FCR, and then I'm going to attack them. I'm going to walk you through each step. So I've already cooled my warheads, and at this point, we're going to prosecute an attack. At this range, you'd probably be using dogfight mode, which I'm going to go over in a moment. This is like not an ideal range to use the FCR. If you can visually see the target this close, then you're almost always going to use dogfight mode. Okay. So I have this bomber flying away from me. We can see it here. See the exhaust from its engine. And also our good friend the indexer is back. It's the exact same symbology as the AMRAAM. Okay, it doesn't have the triangle and the circle, but other than that, it's the same. Note next to the caret, you have the closure rate. Okay, then you have the maximum, ideal range, the most deadly range, and then the minimum range. Same concepts. And also same stuff on your FCR. It's all pretty much the same. Now, at this point, I might want to uncage the seeker head. When you're closer than 5 miles, you want to uncage the seeker head. So I'm going to do that by pressing U, and you're going to hear the tone is going to get a lot more violent. Hear it out, became more like a higher tempo tone. Now, I theoretically could shoot now, but it's not ideal. I want to wait for the indexer to get closer to the caret. But that tone is really hot. I could probably hit him at this range. And I say I just caged it again, uncaged it. We're within 3 miles now. We're almost to an ideal range. Indexer expands. Closure rate is expanding. Now there's a good shot.
Fox 2.
Boom. Gonna hit him with another one.
Fox 2.
Altitude. Altitude.
So that's the AIM-9, the AMRAAM, and the FCR. The next thing we're going to go over is dogfight mode, okay? Dogfight mode is a visual radar mode in which you can bring a target into your bore sight and then lock onto it immediately and automatically. It's an ideal mode when you can visually acquire a target such as this guy here. You can visually see him and he's too close to get on the FCR. You're not going to have the time, or you don't want to lose the situational awareness of moving around, of looking down, getting him on the FCR. It's much better just to switch to dogfight mode, get him into the bore sight, and lock him up. Dogfight mode is ideal for when you see targets merging on you and you need to respond quickly and accurately without any sort of second guessing, and while keeping your head in the game. Now, I'm going to unpause, I'm going to switch into dogfight mode. In order to switch into dogfight mode, you have to press D on your keyboard, okay? So, I'm going to unpause, dogfight mode's on. Now, what dogfight mode does is it declutters your HUD. All you're going to have is some basic things here, like airspeed, altitude, your bullseye, just telling you your arms. You have the seeker head for the AIM-9, which is selected automatically when you go into dogfight mode, how many G's you're pulling, and a gun cross, your gun cross, decluttered without any extra crap around it, and an eggs funnel, which is a radar guided gun mode for your cannon used to shoot down air contacts, which is also automatically selected when you go into dogfight mode. And no rad, which means no radar, okay? When you go into dogfight mode, your radar is turned off. It's turned off automatically. And the reason for this is that when you're going into dogfight mode, more often than not, you're going to be ambushing a target, or you're going to be so close to it that you don't want him to know that he's getting locked up, because otherwise he's going to jink immediately without warning. Okay, so I'm going to unpause the game. When I press TMS up, it's going to re-enable the radar, and then it's going to create a T down the middle of my HUD. All I need to do to lock something up is to bring the T onto the target and press TMS up, and then it locks on automatically. So, I'm going to unpause and show you guys that. So right now we have, no radar, unpausing. Turn my radar on by pressing TMS up.
Lock.
And it locks on automatically. Now, when you lock onto something, it has some new symbology that you wouldn't have in other modes, okay? I'm not going to go over guns that much in depth right now, but just a very brief introduction. In order to kill this target with guns, it's recommending that you turn your wings to be on this line right here. And it's also, what you would do is you would get the aircraft's wings in between this funnel, and then once the aircraft or the target is on top of this white, this circle here, called the dot of death, you can fire and kill it. That's it. That's all I'm going to go into about guns for now. Other than that, pretty standard symbology that we've already seen. Has the indexer here for the Sidewinder. Surrounding the target is a new symbology. This is a circle, okay, and the circle sweeps counterclockwise into dots, into a dotted line. When it's completely a dotted line, then you're going to be so close that you're either going to lose contact with the target or be unable to engage it with weapons. It starts, if you're far out, it will start completely solid, like this right here. And the closer you are, the more dotted it will be, and it will keep peeling away as you get closer, or the target closes on you. Now at this point, I'm at, almost at the minimum range for the Sidewinder, so I'm just going to unpause, quickly uncage the Maverick and fire, Sidewinder, and fire. But that's the basic concept. You just bring the target into your HUD and press TMS up, and more often than not, it will lock on automatically.
Fox 2.
Boom, boom, boom. Give him another one for good luck.
Fox 2.
going down now. Not going to survive that. Dead. That's basically the dogfight mode, and one note that I will make is that you can select the AMRAAM in dogfight mode. All you have to do is just cycle air-to-air weapons by pressing your AA key, or by cycling air-to-air weapons via a key binding. You can select the AMRAAM. I mean, it's not designed for the AMRAAM, but you can use it with the AMRAAM fine. The final thing I'm going to show you guys with air-to-air combat is I'm going to show you the HMCS. The HMCS is a helmet-mounted HUD that your character has on if you're in an F-16. It allows you to look around and you'll have a HUD on your screen. And it's being displayed on your helmet. Okay? So in order to activate the system, you got to go down here under your ECM panel. You're going to have this switch. It's in a panel called HMCS. You got to switch this to the right. Now, the more it is to the right, the darker the HUD will be. So if you have it on just one setting right, you can barely see the HUD when you go up and look out. You can barely see it. If it's all the way to the right, you can see it. It's very dark. So I'm going to put it all the way to the right just for testing purposes. I'm going to unpause the game so we can see it. So this is the HMCS. It shows you some pretty crucial information. Like, for instance, it will show you the current bearing to whatever you're looking at. Right now it's stuck because I have the game paused. It tells you your current bullseye, what weapon you have selected, airspeed, altitude, range, and heading to whatever you're looking at. It'll tell you how many G's you're pulling. And what it also shows you is some other very important symbols, okay? It will actually show you the gimbal limits of your Sidewinder. So, you probably can't see it until I zoom in, but see that little diamond? We went over this before. That is the sensor head for your Sidewinder. Now, notice how it's not following my HUD. And the reason for that is that is the gimbal limit. In other words, that's the maximum limit of where the Sidewinder can look. And it will move with my HUD. It will move with my HUD, but it won't go past a certain degree. I think it's like 30 degrees or so of bore sight. That's for the AIM-9 mic, at least. For the AIM-9 X-ray, you can fire really far up bore sight. Now, the coolest thing about this mode is that if you're in dogfight mode and you have the HMCS up, you can actually lock up targets just by looking at them. And the way you do that is you look at them and then you press TMS up. So, watch. Oh, you have to hold down TMS up. So I'm going to unpause. What you're going to see is holding down TMS up. See that circle? Now I just move it onto what I'm going to lock up and it locks them up. I'm going to let this guy go off of bore sight so I can do it again. Okay. Hold down the circle. Then you release it when you want to lock onto something.
Lock.
Simple as that.
Lock.
It'll even show you on the HMCS the bearing to the target. You see how that line's moving? This line right here shows you the bearing to the target. So all you got to do is follow that line direction. It'll bring you right to the target visually. Okay. Now, what it will do as well is I'm gonna unpause this, unlock the target. Now it will also show you gimbal limits for your radar. So I'm going to use my radar here. Okay, it's designating, and I can't go off of that line. See it? See how the oval turned to an X? Oval with an X in it? That's because that's the gimbal limits for my radar. Because again, I want to remind you guys that it's a searchlight. It's a searchlight, okay? So I can't go above the searchlight. I'll turn into an X. I can't go beyond the searchlight off of the flank. And there's limits. So it shows you the radar limits, and it also shows you the sensor, heat sensor limits. Now,
lock.
I can lock onto anything just by looking at it.
Lock.
Now, let's say you're in a dogfight or whatever, and you want to get rid of the HMCS. It's really annoying you, but you don't want to go down to the switch. You can do that fine. All you have to do to get rid of this HMCS is just hold down BMS down. Okay, it will go away just like that. If you want it to come back on, you just hold down BMS down again. Turn it on, turn it off. It's going to prosecute an attack using the HMCS, and then this video is pretty much over.
Lock.
Good tone. I'm using my Sidewinder here. I'm going to go off bore sight just so we can look at it off bore sight. It's almost at the gimbal limits here.
Fox 2.
It's trying to go low to evade me. Not going to work out for you, buddy. Boom.
Fox 2.
So that concludes this video. Just wanted to show you guys the basics of air to combat. Please let me know if this was helpful at all.